Robin, how are you?
Morning, how are you?
Good. Hi, I'm Joe. Chantel? How are you?
Hey, Robert.
This is you here. Mr. Wentworth. So they are muted right now? Can they see us? Okay, great. And then you can,
They're either Kendra or Anthony, so emailing it to the two.
okay, and will Kendra be on?
Head of manager.
I'm on.
Okay, good, fine.
Um,
And these were done by contract.
Yes,
Pursuant to contract. That we've already approved.
that is correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there are contractual obligations that we've had.
Previously, so for example, the DIMS was, that was done a year ago, and this is now working good now, Robin?
Yeah, that did, actually, we have a multi-year thing for the debts. So that's our annual.
Where's the camera that shows us?
That's our annual renewal fees to voter registration.
Good.
So
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Oh,
that actually comes out of the Diebold settlement.
oh, this still?
So we had it for free for so many years, and then the annual rate is set by that. It's 50,000 plus an inflationary adjustment. So that's, and I think that goes on for many years.
Is Mark attending today, you know?
I think
He's on the call.
Yeah, Mark is attending.
Great.
Morning.
Morning, Mark.
And Brian Cleary's gonna supposed to be on the phone, so he can do the audit update.
Okay, and if Rob is not attending, right?
That's how I read that, yes.
All right, well, we'll start the meeting. Good morning, everybody, and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I will note that Mr. Wondlowski and myself are here in person, and that Ms. Ida David Chappelle is attending via Zoom. Could you hear us, Ida Jo? Can you hear us, Ida Jo? I don't see her. Yeah, she wanted. I don't see her.
I think we lost Ida Jo.
Okay, so you can hear, good morning, Chantel. Can you hear us, Chantel?
I can.
Okay, and Anthony, do you know where Ida Jo is?
I'm back on. My apologies. I had to change location. So.
Okay, terrific. We've got Ida Jo. You can hear us now, Ida Jo, obviously.
Oh yeah, good.
Okay,
See everybody there.
I will note we have a quorum, and I'll make so we have 3 or 4 members here attending. I'll make a motion to excuse the absence of Mr. Frost at today's meeting. For a second. A second. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Aye.
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, and then we're on to the approval. I will move to approve the minutes from the May 22nd and June 8th, 2020 board meetings, if there's a second. Second. Thank you. Mr. Wondlowski, have any questions or comments? Hearing none. Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
I get a little echo going on. I don't know if we have heard yet.
Robin, would that be our, because we have to read something there? I think what's happening is coming from the phone system as well as Zoom, maybe? Got it? Okay. Great. How's that, Ida Jo?
You are muted. You can mute or unmute yourself by pressing *6. You are unmuted.
You're on mute, Jeff.
Okay, you can hear me?
Or somebody, now I can hear you.
Okay, no echoes. Good. All right, that motion passed unanimously. And then I will move to acknowledge Secretary of State's Directive 2020-10, if there's a second. Second. Thank you. Are there questions or comments concerning that directive? And I'm gonna wait a second, because I think Ina Joe is probably on pause, 5 or 10 seconds behind us. But, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes unanimously. And on to ballot now. This will be for the certification of audit from the March 17th, 2020 primary election. I understand, Mr. Cleary, you're online with us?
Hi, Eric, can you hear me?
Yes, Brian, welcome, and why don't you give us a summary of how that audit went?
Sure, Brian Cleary, Manager, Ballot Department. Beginning June 9th, we conducted 3 post-election audits for the 2020 presidential primary election. There were a total of 196,791 total ballots cast for this election. A hand count was conducted of 6,375 ballots cast in the 3 audited contests. The accuracy rate of the post-election audit was 100%. Everything matched the official canvas. We selected 3 races: the Democratic delegates at large and alternates at large to the National Convention. A total of 6 unique batches were hand counted in that race. The second race we audited was the Democratic 8th District Court of Appeals, unexpired term, 1/1/2023. A total of 13 unique batches were audited in that election. Once again, it's 100% matched the official canvas. And then the final race we audited was the Democratic Court of Common Pleas Domestic Relations Division, full term commencing 1/8/2020. There were a total of 17 unique batches that were audited in that. And once again, it matched 100%. And then there's a breakdown from the rest of the sheet of the individual batches that were selected, and I'll take any questions if you should have.
Thank you, Brian. I do have a question. Were there any observers present and/or other board of elections there kind of watching our audit process?
We did have one observer that came for the first day. The audit took us about 3 days to do. They were from Southern Ohio, just wanted to kind of see how from the Republican Party in Southern Ohio, kind of see what the process went. They saw the random selection and the beginning of the hand count, and then they left with, they were happy with how the process was going and gave us good feedback.
Great. Any other questions for Mr. Cleary? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Ina Joe. Hearing none, I will move to approve the certification of the audit certify the audit for the March 17th, 2020 primary election as presented to us by Supervisor Cleary. If there's a second. Second. Thank you. Any other question or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Brian. We'll see you back here in August. Another election. I will move to acknowledge the resignations from elected office of Mr. George Rosen from the Board of Education for Strongsville, effective June 4th, 2020, and then effective July 1st. Marty Gelfand is resigning from South Euclid City Council. If there's a second. Second. Thank you. Any questions or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes unanimously. And here we have a matter that I think will become a matter of course for most of our meetings prior to election. The approval of this board, if it decides to appoint not less than 2 precinct election officials for each precinct, not less than 32 total, pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code Section 3501.22. This code section gives our staff more flexibility to man and polling locations throughout the county, in this case, in Maple Heights and Pacific. So that's my motion. If there's a second. Second. Great. And Mark is on the line. This is something we need to do, Mark, each time we have an election, if we want to permit to have less than 4 precinct officials at each location. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
Correct.
Any other question or
And
comment?
I have a question, we've done this before, but I just want to make sure for clarification. It doesn't allow, this vote and this move does not permit us from redeploying more election officials where we need them. So the flexibility is that we could have fewer in some, and then there's no maximum number. We could deploy as many as we need in other locations, and I just want to make sure that's correct and clear.
That is correct, and that's what we asked for, not less than 2 per precinct, because the code originally states 4 per precinct, and then it gives you flexibility for not less than 2. So that's what we're asking for. In particular, for this particular election in Maple Heights, we have 2 poll places, 16 precincts. we would have to hire 64 people had we not done this. We really don't need that for this election. And actually what our plan is for this August is we plan to send some of our permanent staff out there, because this will be the first election where we're setting out a full place in the field with all the social distancing requirements that we have to have. And so we'll have basically the entire election official department there, some representatives or staff from the registration department to kind of observe the provisional process, as well as some election support individuals who will kind of be on-site rovers there at the location. We also plan then to hire some of our poll worker trainers as precinct election officials. And so this way they can work out there, and that kind of doing will just make them stronger trainers when they go into the fall, and they can kind of see what's going on. But we will hire some of the PEOs from Maple Heights to be there. In particular, the voting location managers and voting location deputies will be there because we want them to see kind of how this is supposed to go. So when it comes to November, they will have a better understanding and control of how the locations work, as well as maybe a few other poll workers. So that's kind of our general plan. But kind of where this started is this is something that we probably will do most elections in a proactive measure, just to make sure we're able to comply with code.
Great.
Yeah, my question was simply just, I understand that, and the flexibility is great. Is there a cap on the number? I'm just curious about whether there's a maximum number.
No.
Okay. I didn't know. I didn't see that in the statute, but I wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Ina Jo. Mark, did you have a comment?
No, I was just gonna agree with what Mr. Parati just stated,
Okay. Great.
that there is no cap.
Any other questions or comments? I believe there's a motion, a second on the floor. Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Great, motion passes unanimously. Why don't we move on to, why don't you give an update on this polling location? Well, let me do this first. We have vouchers. We have a walk-on. Mr. Pilati, if you want to tee that up, or Ms. Zusi?
So I'll just say that we do have 2 items on a walk-on voucher that we would like for the board to consider today. And Kendra, if you want to go ahead and say what those are.
Excuse me, I want to first, Ina Jo, did you get a copy of the vouchers? They were to email you one?
I did not. There were none with our original attachment, but hold on, let me just double check. Oh, we just got it after the meeting started. Can I have it? Yeah.
Okay, I just want to give you an opportunity to review it before we have discussion, that's all.
Yeah, there's a big number on here, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
Yeah, I do see the 2 items on the voucher sheet that was emailed to me. Thank you.
So why don't you tee this up for the board here, Mr. Pilati and Ms. Zusi?
Yeah, there's 2 items. The first one is the annual software license and maintenance fee for the DIM voters registration database for the annual term of July 1st through June 30th, 2021.
This is
And
for,
that amount is, we didn't pay for many years, and then it was adjusted for the consumer price index each year. It goes up slightly.
And that is born out of the litigation that happened years ago with Depot, where we did have the system for many years at no cost to us. And then after a set point in time, I don't remember when that was, might have been 2018 in that vicinity, then we had a fixed, like Kendra said, fixed dollar amount with an inflationary adjustment every year.
so is this done pursuant to a contract we've already approved, Mark or Ms. Kendra?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're just exercising the option to renew.
We're exercised per the contract.
Correct.
And you're correct that we've got free DIMs for, I think, up to 10 years. And now, over a number of past years, we've had to pay for that software.
Correct, yes.
But just a point of clarification, is there a contract or a separate, a contract or separate software license and maintenance agreement? Is there an agreement a separate agreement that includes the maintenance fee? And if we are authorizing an option, don't we have to vote on authorizing the option? The contract, or did we do that already? I don't recall.
I don't have the contract, so, you know, I don't.
So I'm asking council. I was asking council. Sorry.
Let me pull that up. I may have gotten ahead of myself on that.
I mean, it seems to me before we authorize the maintenance fee, adjustment to the fee, we'd be authorizing the actual option to renew the contract, but we can just check on that.
Yeah, Kendra, do you have it in front of you? I'm trying to pull it up.
What I have is the contract automatically renews for an unlimited number of successive one-year periods.
Okay, so unless we opt out, it will renew.
Right, it was originally part of the 2010 settlement. Correction, the contract can be renewed up to 21-year renewal period.
So when does this, here, I understand we're walking it on, but I'd really like to see that contract and review it.
Yeah,
I mean, we're not gonna lose the software program, right? I mean, you can talk to the vendor and.
Yes.
I think I'd just like to see normally we probably have the contract on our agenda too, along with a voucher and say, that's probably prudent to do it that way if we could.
Yeah, we can pull this and put it on the July 13th meeting. They won't turn off Tim's on.
And you have another one here from Runbeck Election Services. This may be a little different than the DIMS matter, because I think we already approved the contract and the product. Why don't you set that up for us?
Sure. So at the end of 2019, this was one of the items that it was a budgetary initiative that we put in our budget document that the county said go ahead in 2019 and go forward with the procurement of the piece of equipment. And what this piece of equipment is a mail ballot verifier that has been installed at the Hadley warehouse. The identification envelopes in the vote by mail process go through this, or loaded into this piece of equipment. They go through, takes a picture of the face of the envelope, reads the barcode, and pulls out the person's voter registration record from DIM and the picture of the envelope, where operators can sit at computers and then do on-screen verification if all the fields are correctly filled and accept or reject those applications. This is one of the major pieces of equipment that will improve our efficiencies going forward, because this machine operates very quickly. And so we entered it, we went out to bid in the fall.
Excuse me, so I recall this being a budgetary matter. In fact, the council approved it and gave us the money for it.
Yes,
Then the board went out to bid.
correct. And so these funds are encumbered from last year's budget. We went out to bid, and actually Runbeck was the only person who submitted a bid. We vetted them out. Currently, Hamilton County has this exact piece of equipment, so we've actually seen it. Some staff have seen it run in real time, and so they were awarded that. This is a piece of equipment that is not on a shelf, so they build as the orders come in because of the price of the piece of equipment. And so when it was completed and ready for shipment, it was delivered in May. 3 representatives from the company came out for a week, installed it, trained staff, make sure it's working, and then at that point, that's when they invoice us.
After we had approved the bid, this board did,
Yes.
correct? And it came within budget, what you anticipated?
Yes, so we were able to encumber this full dollar amount. Is that correct, Kendra?
Yes.
Okay, so the money's encumbered already, product's been delivered, everything. This is a little different than the previous one. So I will move to approve that voucher to Runbeck Election Services, if there's a second.
Second.
Okay, are there any questions on it, Joe, Dave?
yeah, I think one question, what's the breakdown between the equipment and then the software, and is there a software license fee that goes along with that? That's gonna be something we'll be approving on an ongoing basis?
We will get an annual software renewal. What that is, I don't know off the top of my head. But the first year software is included in this price, as well as all the fees for installation. We can get you though what the ongoing annual maintenance is.
That's all for me.
Well, the breakdown on the 276, 350 would be helpful to know what's installation, how much is the equipment, how much is the software, just so we have that, information would be great.
Is that something you have with you now, Kendra, or is it something you have to look up and send to the board?
I'm looking up now, I don't have it in front of me, right?
Okay. You want to wait then until you have that information, or?
Yeah.
I can ask my board members, do you want to wait, or? Is it okay with you, Anna Jo, if she gets that information, we can vote on this, but that information is provided us, so we know going forward?
Yeah, I just like to know some of the details. I mean, it's a walk-on item, so some of the details might have been included in another format if it weren't. We're walking this on because we need this right away. Is that the issue? Why is this a walk-on item? Here.
We just didn't want the vendor to wait for payment. They,
I think Elizabeth Hallmark. I mean, we have the equipment.
correct.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good with that. If you could just provide the information, the breakdown, that'd be great.
I have it here. The system is the 276,350, which includes the software license fee and maintenance fee in that amount. And then the ongoing license fee is $15,000 per year for the next 3 years. And the maintenance fee is $7,500 for the next 3 years. For a total of $22,500 each year.
Thank you.
Joe, those were excellent questions. Those are questions that should be answered, and thank you, Kendra, for providing those answers. And as much as the equipment's been delivered and installed, and we're using it, and we have competitive bid this product and covered the monies, I'm fine with approving this walk-on, and we'll see the DIMS contract up back when we come back on July 13th. Okay, we've got a motion and a second for the Runbeck Election Services invoice to be paid. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, that passes, and we'll get the DIMS contract when we come back in July. Why don't you give us an update on polling locations, polling locations in business?
Sure, yes. And then I also do a couple other things on the new business, if that's okay. But we'll start with polling locations. So, securing our polling locations for this upcoming November election is probably going to be one of the top two most difficult challenges that we'll work through in front of us. And a lot of that has to do because of the pandemic. So even prior to going into the fall, this past spring, we had 93 precincts that we moved for the spring primary. Now, obviously, we didn't have in-person voting at the polls that day, but we had all those teed up. 29 of those precincts were impacted by the St. Patrick's Day holiday, where we had to shift locations. And then the other 64 precincts, we had to move because they were related to either a senior facility or a medical facility that we had to move out. So where we're kind of trying to chunk this out in pieces and work, we're going to kind of tackle, look at some of those things first. Now, we have reached out to the private locations to see if they have an interest, and we've had so far 7 locations, private polling locations, come back and say that they're not interested in being a polling location at this point in time for the fall due to COVID-related concerns, and that's 24 precincts. So what we're going to do is,
Excuse me, Tony, or Anthony, could you mute those?
for now.
Okay, thank you.
So during this kind of first phase of review of going through, some of the things that we're going to do is we're going to look to those 29 precincts that moved to accommodate the St. Patrick's Day holiday. And we're going to work with the municipal officials in those cities to see where we move them to. Is that a better option than where they originally were? And so we'll figure out and get those settled, whether they stay where we move them to or they return back to the first. And then we're also we'll be looking at the senior living facilities. That was a quick turnaround. We did that in 2 or 3 days because we had to. And again, we're gonna see which one of those moves still makes sense, or now having more time, can we find a better location when we are able to assess that? We also will be looking at the same time at our single precinct locations that have less than 800 square feet, and that's 13 of them. So 800 square feet is kind of something that we've come up with over the years, where you can set up a point location to operate smoothly with spatial requirements. We do have 13 locations again that are under that, and so we'll look at each of those. Some of those locations are, say, in a smaller community such as Hunting Valley, where there's not a lot of options. So we may just have to try to make that work because you really don't have anywhere else to go. It's really just a almost 100% residential community. But we'll start chipping away at those and knock those out. We also have, we'll also be looking at municipalities that only have one location. So currently there are 30 municipalities in the county that only have one poll place. A lot of them are, again, smaller communities, Bentleyville, Brattonall, Highland Hills. So we'll try to see, does that work, or do we need to find an additional poll place for those locations? Then you have some bigger ones. Parma Heights, Warrensville Heights, they only have one poll place. They have 12 precincts in each of those. So, and those are things that we've done within the last couple of years. Again, you lose a lot of your functionality when you space these things out, maybe cut things in half, or you only have a third. So we'll work with those municipal leaders to see, we may have to add another location there to try to manage the lines efficiently. So we'll kind of look at all of these municipalities, and these 30 municipalities that only have one poll place, and figure out what do we do? Can we still roll with one, or do we need to add one or more to it? So we'll start to knock those off the list. Another thing we'll be doing is working with fiscal. Some of these 7 locations that reached out to us and said they had COVID concerns, we want to talk to them. What would make you comfortable if there was, some of them indicated if there was a post-election sanitizing of the voting room, they may be willing to be a poll place. So for example, Old Stone Church, that's something they're looking at. Well, we don't have a lot of options downtown. So what we're going to do is call out and see what exactly do they mean by the sanitation. Is it wiping down a restroom? Is it cleaning handles? Is it mopping the floor?
I can speak from experience in the construction industry, and they have a fogging system out there. It's a hospital grade disinfectant. I can get you some more information on that, but that is really effective. I mean, it kills everything. Lands on everything. It lands underneath surfaces as well. I mean, wherever the fog is deployed, it kills everything.
That's excellent.
So I can get you that information.
That'd be really appreciated, because we were going to try to go out, request for proposals, try to find something.
And you probably would have to, but I'm just, that would be the way to do it.
But we would know what to ask for,
Right.
which is great. Okay, so we want to do that.
I also think that, we need to really find some funds, whether we get them from the county or whatever, to ramp up public service announcements to really ask people for their own safety to vote by mail.
100% agree, because all 3 options, I'm pretty positive, will be available to the voters. That's what it seems like with the bills that have been introduced. So some people may be more inclined to vote by mail, which is great, and that's what we want. We need to encourage them. It doesn't mean that we can't not set up poll places, and so we need to be able to do all these things. And it is going to cost more money to run this election than what we had planned for a year ago before we knew about all this. And I agree, some of these Secretary of State dollars, maybe federal dollars that went to the county, if we can get our hands on some of these things to help us.
Television commercials, newspaper ads, yeah.
We need somebody a little bit better looking than me to get on TV, though.
I'm not the person either.
There you go. So we're gonna.
But I just want to add to Dave's point. I mean, we do need to get someone to think through the messaging around the vote by mail, and maybe there's going to be something that will come from the Secretary of State's office, but we need to not only address the issue about, pushing and perhaps and advocating for vote by mail, but also to talk about expectations around the time it will take to vote and the lines that will inevitably we will inevitably have, because if we have social distancing, it is going to take longer to vote in person. So, do we have somebody that is thinking through some of the messaging around those things? I'm in wholehearted agreement with Dave on, we need to be getting, some of that messaging together, and maybe we're waiting for some of the final details on how the election will be conducted. But I think, we need to be managing expectations about in-person voting and the fact that that is going to take longer, in addition to, the fact that we'll be sanitizing and doing everything we can to protect, maintain cleanliness and so forth. But we need to start on that, I think.
No, 100% agree. And so we're actually trying to set up, Eliza Wayne, who's communication director for the county executive's office. She and I are trying to set up a conference call to start talking about how our offices can work together on communicating all these types of things. One of the things that I want them to know is if there is a line, it doesn't mean that there's problems. They need to understand it's because it takes more time to process a voter to keep them safe and healthy through that process. Another thing that we want to do is actually this July, coming up just within the next week or two, we want to start more aggressively marketing for people to ask for a vote by mail application now. So we needed to get DIMS set for November so we could input applications, because I want them to be able to go on our website and track that when they do turn in an application that we have it. So part of that is because we already have about 10,000 applications that we received in the spring. So people sent in an application for the spring primary and for the fall at the same time. We haven't been able to put those in yet because we had to have the system set. We just finished our DIMS upgrade. That's there, so we can start to put those in now. So we want people to request. We've had about 2,000 people already request applications for the fall. Don't want to wait for the Secretary of State's mailing. Want to get out and see what we can get now to get those in. And then also manage that process too, knowing that you're not going to get a ballot now. You're not going to get a ballot put in the mail until October 6th. So they don't think that system is broken. But what the heck, I sent it in, how come I didn't get anything? So these are all things that we want to get out and get in front of this summer and not wait till the fall.
Great. I mean, imagine Mike in his shop, we're working with the county executive, and a lot of this information is very useful, could be on our webpage. If you got a longer line, doesn't mean there's a problem, and you're going to get your ballot in October. I know the Secretary of State do his task force meetings, and his social media is promoting, fill out your applications now. So excellent points that Dave and I and Joe to make.
Yeah, so we want to do that.
So with regards to Maple Heights, how do you all teed up there and ready to go?
Maple Heights, yes.
Sorry, can I just ask one question on the polling location review? And sorry, we digressed a little bit there. I just want to make sure that we've taken a look at the locations in Cleveland proper, because when we used to on election day, go around to the voting locations. I mean, there were a lot of locations in the urban core, frankly, that were very tight, and people were in close quarters. And so I'm assuming that we've identified those in Cleveland proper to make sure that we are figuring out ways to manage how we would be able to social distance in those locations. I mean, literally, there were some, I think in prior elections, we had brought to you guys' attention that, there were some that really were just way too small. And maybe we've rectified that in prior elections, but just want to make sure we're talking about, the city core as well, to make sure we've reviewed those locations to ensure that we are able to social distance and maintain appropriate we have appropriate space to conduct those election in those sites. I'm sorry.
So I mean, we're going to go poll place by poll place and go through, and this is going to. It's not like a process that's done in a week. We'll be working on this. We're trying to move as quickly as we can, but it probably won't be closer till end of July, beginning of August, when we will have gone through the 300 plus and really kind of have everything moved around and figured out where we have to come out of and where we can stay and move. So it's a big process. I mean, the city of Euclid is going to be a big process. They had senior location. Yeah. Okay. And we hope to be done prior to that, but yes, it's going to take weeks. And then, so Maple Heights, we are ready for Maple Heights. The voter registration closes on July 6th. Early person voting and vote by mail opens on July 7th. We have, I believe, about 45 vote by mail applications, ballot applications that were set to process. We actually received over 2,000 applications, most of which are not from Maple Heights. And again, this is something where in the spring, they sent us in an application for the spring election. Some people did August, knowing whether they had it or not, and then November. And so the majority of these people don't have, they don't have an August election. We are sending them a letter, letting them know that. So those are going out now. We've had 6 UOCAVA ballots that went out, and in the spring, Maple Heights had a 17% voter turnout. So we assume it'll be at the most 17%. Typically, your August elections are less than, because usually the entities putting the issue on, but they don't advertise it. So, but we, voter information cards going out, that was already approved at the prior board meeting, and we're ready for this.
All right, great. You all set?
Yeah, just real quick. Today, by the end of the day, you're going to receive, the board members will get the election administration plan, the EAP. Tony Calgar will send that. It'll come with a summary sheet of the changes, and it'll have the EAP then where he highlights in yellow the corresponding changes with that summary sheet. I'll ask that if you can maybe have a week, and maybe next week, beginning of next week, get those back. If you have any edits, he'll incorporate those in, and then you sign and we send. We don't need a board approval or board action on that EAP. And the secretary, I'm not sure, but if everyone knows, the Secretary of State's conference this fall is virtual. It's not going to be in person. We haven't got any additional information other than it is virtual, but Secretary of State's office did reach out to us and ask if we could present information on 2 topics. One of them being our poll workers CLE program, because we were the only county to get approved for that. So they want us to talk about that a little bit, and as well as all the organizational steps that we take at the warehouse on election night to account for all the memory sticks, all the ballot bags, all those types of things. They want us to talk a little bit about what we do here to keep everything organized and accounted for. And then just the last thing is that the NCOA mailing, that directive, it was acknowledged today. We are on track working with that. We typically mail within the last day or two, and that will be the case again this time. The deadline is June 30th, so we'll mail either on June 29th or June 30th. At this point in time, what happens is staff is working through the data to see any of these records that were provided by the Secretary of State. Has a person actually canceled their registration because they get pulled out of the mix? And some of these individuals have updated their address with us since the Secretary of State pulled the data. So we kind of comb through and clean it up a little bit.
They're just sending out notices at this point. We're not eliminating registrations.
Right, no cancellations prior to this general election per the Secretary of State's office. This is just the notice of the address change with the post office.
All right, anything else?
That's the main thing.
All right.
Two questions, if I could. Did the voter registration drive go forward on Friday? Was the county executive?
Yes, so we're at Dave's Supermarket from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Over in Midtown, on I think 60th Chester. We did have some individuals complete registration cards as well as some vote by mail applications. The county was also there. On the side, they were talking a little bit about census, and then the county executive did come. Channel or Fox 8 News was there, I believe another media outlet. So they did talk to him, and they actually talked to me a little bit about it. So it was it went well.
And one last question, if I could. The Secretary of State actually had a really neat briefing on Friday about minority misinformation and disinformation. And I don't know, I participated in it. I don't know if anybody, do we have anybody from our office participate in that or attend that briefing?
No, I don't think you reached out to us.
Okay.
So I'm not aware of anyone participating in that.
Okay. It was just useful information around, folks being advocates to let people in the public know that there are these organizations that are trying to derail our elections process. And it might be, I don't know if it's something you, maybe Mike West or you guys might want to consider putting on our website, or at least bringing to the attention of all of the board members at some point so we can, instruct and make our voting public aware as well. But it was a good briefing by the Secretary of State. So somebody maybe could follow up, and maybe just so my colleagues can kind of be aware of what was shared, the information obviously, and then make a determination if it's appropriate to put on the website. But I thought the information was useful, and the Secretary was asking us to, as community leaders and members, to spread the word, about the fact that people are out here and targeting the minority communities in terms to disseminate, bogus information and so forth. So it was a good briefing, and I'm just hopeful that we might follow up in some way. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Anna Jo, and yes, once you get a link to our website board, and send a copy of the link to all the board members. Thank you, Anna Jo. It is with a heavy heart and sadness that I will move to acknowledge the separation of the untimely passing of Michelle Hunter.
Chairman, if I may, I'll move that those of attendance here at the meeting, please rise while the moment of silence.
Thank you. I'll take that as a second. Thank you, Mr. Wondolowski. Michelle. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, I think we're through our agenda today. If there's any public comment, Anthony or Linda?
I haven't received any.
Okay, we'll wait a moment. Okay, hearing none, then we'll adjourn today's meeting. We'll recess next time we come back. Thank you. If there's a motion, I made a motion, second. All in favor of adjourning? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Anna Jo. Good to see you.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna add, if you could have, if there are any arrangements for her, not yet.
Yeah, we can please send it out.
So her,
Goodbye.
Potentially